Glenn Beck is so full of bat guano. I don't talk about Glenn Beck anymore because he's a real sociopathic nutcase. Very wealthy, but earlier this week, Beck tearfully announced to the world that he has been battling for years against a rare neurological disorder. Beck said that the illness baffled doctors all over the world, but finally was diagnosed as adrenal fatigue by a chiropractic neurologist. What the hell is a chiropractic neurologist? Dr. Ted Carrick. This is the raw story. Beck said that the mysterious ailment came on gradually over the course of the last few years, causing him to lose his memory and to suffer seizures and intense pain in his hands and feet and fits of vocal paralysis. He had long bouts of insomnia, mental fogginess, and a spate of emotional outbursts that he said, quite honestly, has made me look crazy. Now, after a range of treatments by good old chiropractor Carrick, I've gone to chiropractors a lot. When I feel like I've given myself a bad jolt in running or with the weights, especially along my spine, yeah, I'll go. I don't let them jerk my head because it's a good way to have a stroke, but I'll let them do some manipulation. And the guy that Kathy and I go to, we haven't gone for a long time, but he's good, and he doesn't come on with this ridiculous nonsense that so many chiropractors do. If you eat canned peas and breathe in incense, your fingernails will be strong and healthy. They don't get into this guy. The chiropractor we go to occasionally doesn't do any of that. But apparently this Carrick guy, this Dr. Ted Carrick, he sounds like a real winner, doesn't he? What is a chiropractic neurologist? There's a made-up term for you. Anyway, after a range of treatments by Carrick, including being strapped into and spun around in a giant gyroscope, and an intense regimen of spiritual work and fervent prayer, Mr. Beck claims to have a clean bill of health. He said Monday, "My brain is back online in a big way." Chiropractic neurology. A real neurologist at Yale, Dr. Stephen Novella, dismissed outright this idea as pure pseudoscience in a column 3 years ago. He wrote, chiropractic neurology is not based on any body of research or any accumulated scientific knowledge. I'm not aware of any research that establishes the core claims of neurology chiropractors. A search on PubMed for Carrick, that's Ted Carrick, yielded nothing. And searching on chiropractic neurology yield mostly studies about neurological complications from chiropractic treatment. Yeah, I'm not knocking chiropractic. I really am not. But if you have an amateur and you get your spine adjusted or your neck adjusted, you run a risk of being paralyzed. I mean, what? Stop and think about it. Somebody holds your head and jerks it. What do you expect? Oh, now I'm going to get the emails from chiropractors, right? Look, some of my best friends over the past 40 years have been chiropractors, really. No problem. But chiropractic neurology? This came from Raw Story. Raw Story spoke with a representative of Emory Healthcare in Atlanta who pointed out that Mr. Beck's symptoms do not actually match those associated with something called adrenaline fatigue, which is a syndrome that affects people exposed to high levels of stress. Many of Beck's symptoms are common to people suffering from panic disorders. Most people are aware of the common symptoms of panic: increased heart rate, shortness of breath, sense of impending doom, a panic attack, irrational, escalating sense of harm. And in extreme cases, the anxiety of a panic attack can be so intense that it develops into what is known as psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. And I'm not knocking panic attacks. I've had them. I'm 30, no, 40, 45 years ago. I was back in school. Why, I don't know, at NC State. And I got a couple of panic attacks that were real doozies. But you know what fixes a panic attack? No, 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 not Valium. You know what fixes? Not Librium. Those drugs are out of favor now. You know what fixes a panic attack? 2 beers. 2 beers. If you are prone to panic attacks, anxiety attacks, next time you have one, just get a couple of beers. Unless you're an alcoholic, then you can't do it. But if you're not an alcoholic, when I was suffering these panic attacks, the neighbor in the apartment down the hall from me was a nurse. And the only way I could stop a panic attack was to walk. And she saw me frantically walking around the apartment complex. She said, "Mike, what's the matter?" I said, I finally got it out. I'm going to die. And she took my pulse and respiration rate. She said, "Okay, just stay right here. Sit down on the stoop." She goes in. She comes back out with a Budweiser. She said, "Drink this. Not so fast that you'll throw it back up, but just go ahead. Just drink it down. Don't sip it. Just drink it." So I drank it down. And everything diminished by about half. And she said, "Now, here's another one." I drank that down. Gone. Gone. Anyway, well, there's some more of this. I just want to I want to share some more of this with you because Glenn Beck is such a bag of horse crap. I mean, he really is from top to bottom. This guy, he's a midway barker from a traveling carnival that goes around to shopping centers, cheesy strip malls. And somehow he got his ass hired on Fox and here and there and made $1 million because a lot of people like carnival barkers who sell snake oil. We'll be right back. Yeah, Glenn Beck is a bag of bat guano. There is no question about it. But he said Monday, "My brain is back online in a big way," because this chiropractic neurologist, this freakish Ted Carrick, told him, "Well, you have adrenal fatigue." So he put him in a giant gyroscope and spun him around and put him on an intense regimen of spiritual work and fervent prayer. "My brain is back online in a big way." Yale University neurologist Dr. Stephen Novella says this is all bat squeeze, all of it. He said people who suffer from panic disorder typically see between 10 and 20 medical practitioners before receiving an accurate diagnosis. The symptoms of panic disorder can mirror illnesses of the heart, brain, lymphatic system. And for that reason, it usually goes undiagnosed unless you come up to a doctor who says, "Here, drink a beer, it'll go away." And Novella noted that patients typically have an incorrect sense of what constitutes a diagnosis. Identifying any illness is a process of elimination. Physicians can generally offer what is called a differential diagnosis that includes whatever they have not ruled out that seems the most likely, even though there might be no smoking gun evidence for a single diagnosis. Now, this Yale doctor, Novella, is extremely skeptical, or neurologist from Yale, extremely skeptical of Beck's self-referential and ego-saturated narrative, and believes that if Beck is going to use his version of his medical narrative to make a point, then he should disclose his medical records to the public. Novella said in a conversation with Raw Story, Novella said, quote, "If you're going to use your personal medical history as a public figure in order to make a point, then I think you're obligated to make your medical records public," end quote. Oh, yeah, that'll happen. And Novella is also skeptical of Beck's desire to have it both ways, saying, "I'm going to use this publicity to make a point, but nobody else should look at this information because it's privileged and it's private." Well, if you come out on your half-witted psycho radio show and talk about this, then guess what, Glenn? It's no longer private. Ta-da! You know what Glenn is suffering from? He's suffering from horrendous guilt. First of all, he knows that his adopted religion, Mormonism, is a bunch of hog snot. He understands that. He also understands the damage he has done. He understands the fear and the panic and the ugliness he's injected into public discourse. So what is happening, and this happens to people like Glenn Beck, who are so ego-centered to begin with, that all of a sudden they realize, hey, I'm 50 or 55 or 60, I don't know how old he is, but they start to feel those icy little fingers of time and Mr. Death tapping them on the back, so to speak. And all of a sudden, it's just like, huh, huh. And I think Beck has come to the realization that all of his millions is not going to buy him one extra minute of time on this planet. Okay, it may buy him some extra time when they start carving him up because of all the cancer he's given himself. Oh, yeah, he probably lived through the chemo and surgery and so on and so forth for a while. But in terms of quality time, of time connected to the universe, no, Glenn Beck's time ran out a long time ago. Glenn Beck skids through the universe on his own greased wheels. Beck is who he is. He is who he is. But to come out there and say, oh, well, my brain is back online now. I had these terrible things. Glenn, that's called guilt. It's called a panic attack, anxiety attack. It's called being so sick of yourself you don't know what to do. Hate to break that to you, pal of mine, but that's exactly what it is. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out. I never talk about this psycho anymore. And I kind of miss talking about Glenn Beck. He's such an easy target. You know what I'm saying? Remember when he was finding all kinds of communist symbols in the walls of the Time Life? No. Yeah, like the woman who thinks that Monster drink is of Satan. And Beck used to tell his brain-dead audience that he found proof on the buildings in Midtown Manhattan that what? Yeah, the 30 Rock building. Is that NBC? Yeah, all the symbols on 30 Rock were demonic or communist. What were they? Do you remember?
I'm trying to. You Google this. Google Glenn Beck 30 Rock, and you will get a video of him running around on the stage with his whiteboard talking about. And then he brought out a little miniature statue, and he's talking about the craziest stuff. He's talking about hidden symbols that point to something that's got to do with the revolution that's coming, and the government control and the way that
he's
they
really sick.
control you.
This is a certifiable psychopath.
That's when I knew he was around the bend after watching that particular episode. I think that was around the end of his Fox TV show.
Yeah,
pretty close.
I think so. It's just amazing how somebody can take sociopathy or psychopathy, or however the hell you pronounce it, mental illness that a lot of people suffer from and suffer terribly. And you get some carnival barker like Glenn Beck, and he can turn that mental derangement into a money machine. And it just and suck money out of the terminally stupid. It's just okay. That's enough, Glenn Beck, for now until he finally does himself in. And like I said a couple of years ago, I just hope he does it online so we can watch. We'll be right back.